few numbers, punctuated by Jack taking some loud slurps of wild turkey whiskey from Brooklyn Bernie's brown bag bottle, before launching into his next improvised story song poem. Jack sat down and attacked my remaining coleslaw and French fries, and Brooklyn Bernie, took a huge belt from his near-empty bottle of wild turkey, cleared his throat, climbed on top of his chair, waving his arms to let the patrons of the Cafe Figaro know it was showtime. The denizens of the Cafe Figaro were used to unannounced performances by anyone who felt like giving an impromptu reading of their latest poems, monologues from Shakespeare and Chekhov, ranting and raving about world politics, or delivering homemade public service announcements requesting a place to stay for the night. Brooklyn Bernie clapped his hands, gestured like a crazed symphony conductor from his chair podium for quiet, and launched into a raspy voice version of the rhyme of the ancient mariner. No one paid any attention. He gave Howard Hartley, Kerouac, and Philip Lamantia and myself signals to accompany him with the sound effects suggesting the sea, but his ship was sinking rapidly. He was receiving the fabled New York freeze. The customers began talking to each other, gradually drowning him out. Many of them turned their chairs so that gradually Bernie could see a room filled with people whose backs were turned towards him. "He's like Ralph Elephant's invisible man," whispered Howard Hart. "No one knows he's here." Brooklyn Bernie concluded his speech and was rewarded by withering silence and cold stares of contempt. We could feel his despair. Jack leapt up and started singing "Pennies from Heaven," interspersing Bernie from Brooklyn into the lyrics while I accompanied him. Jack made up a whole song about Brooklyn Bernie coming through the rain to make Manhattan his new home, and what a moving man this moving man was. At the end, the whole Figaro crowd burst into applause and laughter, and one of the women from the table full of intellectual lovelies invited us to join them. We were asked to go with them to a friend's loft where we partied till dawn. Brooklyn Bernie was in heaven and was having an elevated conversation with a gorgeous philosophy major, which was prematurely terminated when he passed out in the armchair he was emoting from. There was an old upright piano in our loft. Jack played his particular style of crashing Beethoven-esque chords while I was scat singing. I backed him up when he sang, spoke, or scattered, and we traded rhymed verses together, with Jack playing the bongos. His natural musicality and style of poetic speaking was extraordinary, and the young women were transfixed to see someone who looked more like Paul Bunyan than a tortured, introspective poet. Emoting streams of dialogue, stories, songs, and poetry that all made sense. That night, after being at the Cafe Figaro, we knew we could do anything, anywhere, for anybody. That was just one moment in this very same place, and that kind of thing happens. That kind of thing happens all over the world, and it happens all the time when people have a place to hang out and feel comfortable, and if they have a neighborhood to live in or to visit. So whatever we do, whatever we read about the dreadful Beat Generation and the famous folk riot and all of that stuff, that's very entertaining, and we certainly don't interfere with anybody's desire to sell t-shirts and misinformation. However, Greenwich Village was, is, and always will be a beautiful place, and there are a lot of folks of all the magnificent African American, Latin American, Asian American cultures that we have in this country, and in this city especially, that are precious and beautiful and nourishing to one another, not to be politically correct, just to be human, to take advantage of their gifts. Have a good time and come back.
Now, David.